rule number 2. Okay, the rule goes like this. If a Shewa follows come on, there we go, follows a long vowel, then it is vocal. So the Shewa will be a vowel that you pronounce. Conversely, if it follows a short vowel, then it is silent. Now let me show you how this develops really from the rules of syllables that we already worked with. If you remember, there's basically 2 types of syllables. CV, open syllable, consonant vowel, and CVC, the closed syllable, consonant vowel consonant. And for each of these, they can be stressed or accented. So CV is the open unaccented, CV prime, or what do you want to call this, is accented, CVC unaccented, and CVC accented or stressed. Now if you recall as well, I said that these unaccented ones are the ones that we can tell something about what this vowel is. And they tend, it's almost like these syllables all want to be the same length. And so the longer one, the one with 3 bits to it, is going to have a short vowel. And this is going to have a long vowel. The net effect is that they'll be a little closer in length in terms of how long it takes to say them, this and this. Now, the stressed ones, as you remember, they can go either way. They can have long or short. So we can't really say too much about them. But the unstressed ones, this is a fairly good rule. CV means long. So open syllables have a long, and short syllables, or closed syllables, have a short vowel. Okay, that's just by way of review. Now with that in mind, let's take a look at an example. Now I don't want to pronounce this, because if I pronounce it, I'll give away how I'm dealing with that Shewa. I don't want to do that just yet. So we have this word. It means judging or judges in Hebrew. And let's actually just apply a rule. Here we have a Shewa. So we look and say, okay, what does it follow? If a Shewa follows a long vowel, it's vocal. Or if it follows a short, it's silent. Now what do we have here? It's following a vowel. Okay, sure enough. And what is that? Holon vav is certainly long. So if it follows a long vowel, it's vocal. So this is vocal, so we pronounce it. So we'd say this something like shofatim. Shofatim. We would not say shoftim. We would not make this silent and say shoftim, but shofatim. 3 syllables. Okay, now that we've applied the rule, let's forget about this rule for a second, and let us simply divide this up according to syllables, or divide it up into syllables according to our rules, which we already have dealt with. So let's try and put our syllable here, okay, as a starter. So we have CVC, that's this one. We know it's this one because the default accent is at the end of the word, unless otherwise marked. So CVC requires a short vowel. We look here, CVC, we have a long vowel. So it can't be this. We cannot put our division here because the CVC requires a short vowel. We have a long one. So let's try this. So now we have CV, and it's long. So CV, long, unstressed. That's fine. Okay, so that's where our first syllable division goes. Now we look at our Shewa. We see, okay, our Shewa is at the beginning of the next syllable. And if we go back to our base rule, we see that a Shewa at the beginning of a syllable is vocal. So, beginning of a syllable is vocal, which is the same conclusion we have come to, or we have come to the same conclusion that this rule stated. But we didn't use this rule. We simply divided up by syllables and applied the first rule about whether Shewa comes at the beginning or end of a syllable. So really, this rule is just the first rule plus syllable division. Now let's look at a counterexample, or example of the other one. Now you should recognize this word if you take time to pronounce it. Spell it out. Yisrael, Israel, Yisrael. And let's apply our rule. Here's our Shewa. It follows a vowel. Which vowel does it follow? Is it long or short? Is it long or short? It's a hidik, which is a short vowel. And if it's short, the Shewa will be silent. So, the Shewa is silent. That means we've got a syllable here. Yisrael. Now let me just erase that syllable division for a moment. Let's forget about this rule. We'll go through the same procedure again. We'll divide this word up according to our syllables. So let's try here. So, consonant vowel. We know it's unstressed because stress falls at the end. So consonant vowel has to be long. We have a hidik. It's not long. So it can't be here. We can't have an open syllable with a short vowel. Open unstressed. So we try here. And we have CVC with a short vowel, unstressed. CVC, short vowel, unstressed. That's fine. So our rules of syllables demand that the syllable division be here, which means the Shewa is now at the end of a syllable, at the beginning of the next one. And if we go back to our first rule, our base rule, we see that a Shewa that's at the end of a syllable is silent. So again, applying syllable division and the base rule, the first rule, comes to the same conclusion as this second law, the second rule here, that a Shewa that follows a short vowel is silent. Okay, now normally when you start reading your text, you're not going to go through this whole procedure every time. I'll give you a summary of this. You just memorize it and you'll be fine. But I want you to see how this all develops, how it really is not as foreign or complicated as it may appear. Now, having said that, there is an exception. There's always exceptions, aren't there? It's the way language works. It's a live, organic thing that doesn't like to be categorized as much as we would like, perhaps. But this exception makes sense. It's not something that breaks rules. It just is more consistent. Lechna, let me write the word here first. This is a word that shows our exception. And the stress is at the beginning. Lechna. Now the way you pronounce this is like I just said, lechna, not lechana. And so let's apply our rule here. If a Shewa follows a long vowel, it is vocal. Shewa follows, here's a Shewa following a tsere, which is a long tone vowel, should be vocal. But in fact, we don't pronounce it that way. We pronounce it lechna. So it's silent. It's marking the end of this closed syllable. It's not lechana. Why is that? Well, that's simply because the rule I gave up here is not strictly accurate. It should say, follows long unstressed. Unstressed vowel. Because this here is not this case, it's this case. And when you stress a vowel, you give it more time, you say it slower, there's a little more time, and so you can put in a long vowel. And so you can have your Shewa at the end of a closed consonant. So this is consistent with our rules here, and it's consistent with this if we spell it all out. Now the reason I haven't done this is because it's simply easier to remember this as a Shewa that follows a long vowel is vocal, and then remember that there is an exception. If it's stressed, then that doesn't follow. It will in fact be silent. And it's easier to remember it this way because most of your cases will be this. You'll be dealing with unstressed syllables, not stressed ones. These are rare. So it's easier to remember the common case and then just note in your mind that there is an exception. And the exception has to do with stress, which is not terribly surprising. We've already seen that here, that unstressed syllables have fairly hard and fast rules about what vowels can be in them. You stress them, and it becomes more fuzzy. So you stress this, it becomes more fuzzy too. That's just follows. Okay, let's take a look. I'll summarize this at the end if this is not clear. Let's take a look at the next rule, the third one.